Ever feel like, keeping up with science is like trying to catch a runaway train?
And you're stuck on the platform, wondering if you should even bother.
Exactly. So today we're diving into this description for Science Weekly to see, well, can this podcast actually get us on board the Science Express?
Or is it going to be another one of those, frustrating delays because nobody has time for that?
Right. Speaking of time, let's jump right in. Okay, so picture this. You're walking into a house, and there's this, totally normal-looking rock propping the door open, like people do.
Right.
But here's the kicker. That ordinary rock.
Yeah.
Turns out it's worth $1 million.
Oh, wow. You're kidding? No way. What was it, like a meteorite or something?
Even cooler, actually. It was a huge chunk of amber. Like, seriously, massive. We're talking headlines, the whole 9 yards.
Hold on, are we talking about that story from Romania? The one with the doorstop? I think I saw that online.
Ding, ding, ding. We've got a winner. So yeah, today we're diving headfirst into this wild story about a simple rock, or, well, not so simple rock, that was used as a doorstop for ages.
This is why I love what we do, eh? You never know where you'll find the next crazy discovery.
For real. Okay, so the article we've got here from Science Alert. It says that this elderly woman in Romania, she found this big old rock in a streamed 7 pounds. Can you believe that? And instead of being like, whoa, heavy rock, she's like, perfect for propping open my door.
7 pounds? I mean, I guess if you need a doorstop, you need a doorstop, right?
Right. So fast forward, and sadly the woman passes away. A relative inherits the house, sees this rock, and gets a hunch, like maybe it's something more than meets the eye, gets it appraised, A&D jackpot.
Let me guess. Turned out to be some super rare mineral.
Even better.
Yeah.
The experts, they confirmed it was a massive piece of ruminite.
Ruminite. Oh, okay, now that rings a bell.
That's like
That's super rare amber, right?
Got it. Found near the Carpathian Mountains in Romania. And get this, it's prized for its deep red color.
Which makes it even more valuable, right?
Yeah.
Because most people think of amber as being like that honey color.
Exactly. But what's really cool about amber and ruminite is that it's fossilized tree resin.
Millions of years old.
Millions. Think about that. And sometimes you get insects, plants, even tiny air bubbles trapped inside, like a snapshot of the past.
It's like a time capsule. You're looking at something that existed millions of years ago. It just blows my mind every time.
Right. And for scientists, that's pure gold. They can study these little inclusions and learn so much about ancient ecosystems.
So this doorstop isn't just valuable because it's valuable for science too, huh?
Exactly. It's like this weird collision of everyday life and scientific importance. And yeah, no surprise, it's estimated to be worth over €1 million.
Wow, €1 million for a doorstop. Makes you wonder if we should all be checking our attics and basements a bit more closely.
Right. But here's the kicker. Get this. The area where this woman lived, known for amber deposits. They've been mining amber in a village called Colty since the 1920s.
Oh, come on. Are you serious? She was living right near a hotbed of amber and had no clue.
Talk about being right under your nose. But hey, at least someone recognized its value eventually, right?
So what happened to it? Did they auction it off?
Not exactly. Because of how scientifically and historically important it is, the Romanian government, they declared it a national treasure. So now it's chilling in the Provincial Museum of Buzău.
That's amazing. From doorstop to museum exhibit. What a glow up.
I know, right? So I think the big takeaway here is you never really know what you've got. Like that old thing you're using as a paperweight could be the next big discovery.
Absolutely. It really makes you think twice about the things we take for granted, doesn't it? Makes you want to go out and start looking for hidden treasures everywhere.
Right. That's the spirit. All right, everyone, until next time, keep your eyes peeled, your minds curious, and who knows, maybe you'll stumble upon your own $1 million doorstop.
Okay, so today we're diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. But stick with me because this is actually happening right now.
Yeah, this is one of those stories that makes you do a double take.
Exactly. So we're talking about brain implants.
We are.
Which already sounds wild enough. But this is next level stuff. We're talking about a brain implant that could potentially change how we treat paralysis.
I think you're going to be blown away by this.
Well, I'm pretty sure I am. But let's bring our listeners in on this too. So where do we even begin with something like this?
Keith Thomas. Back in 2020, he was in an accident, a really bad one, that severely damaged his spinal cord. And because of that, He became paralyzed from the chest down.
That's got to be one of the toughest things to deal with, both physically and mentally. You're suddenly robbed of something most of us take for granted every single day.
Right, and that's why this story is so powerful. So, fast forward, Keith decided to become part of this clinical trial.
Okay, so what's the trial about? How do you even begin to fix something as complex as a spinal cord injury?
Well, that's where the science fiction part comes in. Surgeons implanted a chip in Keith's brain. And get this chip is designed to act like a bridge, an electronic bridge, that bypasses the damaged part of his spinal cord.
Hold on a minute. I think I need a little neuroscience 101 here. So the spinal cord is like the main highway between the brain and the body, right?
Yeah, you got it. It's how the brain communicates with the rest of your body, telling your muscles to move and relaying sensory information back to the brain.
So when the spinal cord's damaged, that communication breaks down.
Exactly. So this implant, this chip, is like building a detour around the accident on that highway. It creates a new pathway for those messages to travel.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But how does this implant know what messages to send? Like, how does it know what Keith wants to do?
All right, so buckle up, because this is where it gets even more amazing. This isn't just some passive bridge. This thing is powered by AI. It's called thought-driven therapy.
Thought-driven therapy. So what Keith just thinks about moving his arm, and the implant makes it happen.
Well, you're not far off. It's wild, right? Basically, when Keith concentrates on a movement, the implant picks up on the brain signals associated with that thought. Then it translates those signals into commands that stimulate the right muscles in his arm.
I gotta be honest, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. This is some next level stuff.
You and me both. But the amazing thing is, it's not just theory. This thing's actually working. It really is like something you'd see in a movie, but this is real life. And the thing is, it's not just about restoring movement, which is incredible in itself.
There's more. What else can this implant do?
Okay, so remember how the article's title mentioned something about a dog?
Yeah, paralyzed man with world-first brain implant can feel his dog's fur again. I was wondering when we were going to get to that part.
Right, so get this. After a year with this implant, Keith could actually feel his dog's fur again.
No way, seriously.
Seriously, he went from not being able to feel anything to being able to feel that.
That just blows my mind. I mean, we all know touch is important, but to have that completely taken away and then restored, that must be life-changing.
Absolutely. The article doesn't really dive into the nitty-gritty details of how they managed to make that happen.
Yeah, how do you even begin to make someone feel something through a brain implant?
Right. But from what I gather, it sounds like the implant isn't just sending signals out to the muscles, it's also receiving sensory information back from the nerves in Keith's arm.
Oh, so it's a two-way street? It's sending those movement commands, but it's also picking up sensory input from the nerves and sending that back to Keith's brain.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like they've created this feedback loop between the brain and the body, bypassing the damaged section of the spinal cord entirely.
That's incredible. It makes you wonder if they can restore the sense of touch. What other senses could they potentially restore with this technology?
You're thinking in the right direction, because that's one of the big questions researchers are asking right now. We could be talking about restoring sight, hearing, maybe even taste. Who knows?
It's mind-boggling to think about the possibilities, but also a little bit daunting, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. It's like opening up this whole new frontier in medicine. But with that come a lot of ethical considerations, too.
That's a really important point to bring up, because it's not just about what we can do, but also what we should do. It's like we're on the cusp of something huge, but also kind of uncharted territory. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely still early days for this kind of technology. We're talking about a procedure that's super complex, super expensive, and right now it's only been tried on a single person. So yeah, uncharted territory is a good way to put it.
I mean, that makes sense, right? You're not going to revolutionize medicine overnight. But where do we go from here? What are the next steps for the researchers?
Well, a big thing is refining the technology itself, right? Make it less invasive, more affordable, that kind of thing. The goal is to make it a realistic option for more patients, not just a select few.
So instead of this being a one-off, it could be available to a lot of people.
Exactly. And think about it right now, they're focusing on spinal cord injuries, but what other conditions could this help with? Imagine what this could mean for stroke patients or people with Parkinson's. We're talking about potentially transforming how we treat a whole range of neurological disorders.
Okay, now that's just blowing my mind again. So Not just giving people back lost abilities, but potentially curing or managing these conditions long term.
It's a lot to take in, and we're just scratching the surface. And you're right, with all these possibilities come big questions, ethical questions, societal questions.
Right, like just because we can do something, does that mean we should? What are the potential downsides we need to be thinking about?
Exactly. We can't just focus on the cool factor. We need to have some serious conversations about the implications of this technology. And I think that's something that's super important to remember with any kind of scientific breakthrough.
Absolutely. It's not just about the science, but about the human impact as well. And speaking of the human element, I was struck by something else in the article. It mentioned that Keith Thomas volunteered for this trial, hoping that it might help others in the future, even if it didn't help him directly.
Yeah, that really got to me too. It speaks volumes about his character, you know? Here's a guy facing incredible challenges, and he's still thinking about how he can make a difference for others. That's pretty amazing.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. He's living proof of that.
For sure. And, it makes you realize just how powerful scientific exploration can be. It's not just about cold, hard data. It's about improving lives, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Absolutely. It's like what we were talking about earlier, pushing into uncharted territory, but doing it with purpose, with a sense of responsibility, and like you said, with compassion.
Well said.
This deep dive has really given us, and hopefully our listeners, a lot to think about. It's not every day we come across a story that combines such groundbreaking science with a truly inspiring human story.
It's been a great discussion. It's a good reminder that even in the face of huge challenges, human ingenuity, that drive to understand and overcome, can lead to incredible things. And, sometimes it even gives you a little hope for the future.
I like the sound of that. Ever heard about a species like popping back up after disappearing for ages?
Yeah, it's surprisingly common. But what we're looking at today, this is next level.
They're talking rainforests of Papua New Guinea, a bird called the New Britain goshawk, gone for over half a century.
Really drives home how much we don't know, and not some little bug, a whole predator bird.
Hard to miss, right? Photographer Tom Virus with the WWF, just snapping bird pics. Boom, rediscovery.
See, that's how good data happens. Didn't even know what he had at first.
The feeling when it hit him, I can't even... Okay, but now, what do we know about this hawk?
Not a lot, sadly. Before this photo, 4 museum specimens, that's IT.
You're kidding, decades, and all we got is some stuffed birds.
Pretty much. Locals had sightings, kingo, they call it, or kulingapa. But science-wise, blank slate.
Wow. Behavior, food, how it raises babies, all that, gone. So this photo, kind of huge then, huh?
Huge GE for conservation, right? It's like you're trying to help, but missing the instruction manual, don't know its role, what threatens it specifically.
One photo's now the starting point.
Exactly.
Like finding a clue after years of searching. So this bird, right? What's pushing it to become a lost species in the first place? What are the threats?
Sadly, it's a familiar story. Habitat loss, big time.
What?
The IFL Science article, they point to agriculture, logging, mining, all carving up those remote forests, the goshawk's home.
Yeah, seen this one before. It's like every time we turn around, another forest bites the dust.
Right. But here's the thing, and it's crucial. It's all connected. Losing those forests, yeah, it's bad for the goshawk, obviously, but it's not just about one bird, right?
It's the whole ecosystem taking a hit.
Bingo. Domino effect. Other species, even us humans eventually, we're part of this too, so what can we do? Got any ideas?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This rediscovery. It's like a second chance, yeah.
Exactly. IFL Science mentioned the WWF is already using this, this renewed interest to ramp up conservation in the area.
Okay, that's promising. What's that look like practically, though? Boots on the ground.
First things first, knowledge is power. Cliché, but true. We need studies, research into the goshawk's behavior, its exact habitat needs.
Those puzzle pieces we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Gotta find those missing pieces, but then we got ACT on what we learn, yeah.
Right, no point in just having a completed puzzle sitting on a shelf.
Exactly, protected areas, working with local communities, not just barging in.
Oh, speaking of, the article mentioned they have their own names for it, right? Kiongo, Kuligapa.
Right, and that's not just trivia, their knowledge. Invaluable generations of living with this bird.
So it's about respect, ultimately.
100%.
Yeah.
Respect for the species, the ecosystem, the people who call it home.
Respect. Great place to start and finish, really. Almost like, You know, this whole thing is a wake-up call. We're not done learning, not even close.
For sure. And it proves, even now, one image, bam, cuts through all the noise. Could literally save this bird just by being seen.
Kind of beautiful when you put it like that. Hidden for decades, now it's back, like a symbol, you know. What's the biggest takeaway for you from all this?
Honestly, this planet, it's still got wonders we haven't messed up yet. Worth fighting for, even if it's just so some lost hawk can have its moment in the sun. Shows how tough nature is, but we gotta be the good guys here.
Well said. And for everyone listening in, hope this got you thinking about those discoveries still waiting and how even knowing about this hawk matters. Respecting the world, it's not just a slogan, right? Even the small stuff counts. Okay, so get this. There's this chameleon, right? And it's so small, it could literally chill out on your fingertip.
Really?
Yeah. They found this brand new species over in Madagascar, Brachycia nophi.
Yeah.
Wild, right? You've got to wonder what else is still out there.
That's incredible.
I know, right? So in today's deep dive, we're going to dig into this whole discovery of Brachycia nophi, and it's actually all thanks to some tourists.
Tourists?
Yeah, tourists.
Oh, that is interesting. It's quite the story. So these tourists were just snapping pictures in Madagascar, no idea they were capturing something so scientifically important. They put their photos online on social media and boom, scientists were like, hold on a minute.
Like winning the scientific lottery or something. Just right place, right time, snap a pic, new species.
Exactly. Citizen science at its best.
Totally.
Huh.
But actually finding these chameleons in the wild, I bet that's not easy, huh?
Not at all, no.
The article describes it as like finding a needle in a haystack.
It's a good comparison. They blend right in.
Wow.
Scientists need like a superhuman level of focus and tons of patience just to spot these little guys.
I can imagine.
It really makes you realize how much we just don't know about what's out there and how important it is to just pay attention, observe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Brachycia nophi, it's part of this whole genus of chameleons, right? The Brachycia.
Right.
What a cool name.
It is a cool name. Now, what's really interesting about Brachycia nophi is that it belongs to this really fascinating genus of chameleons, you know, and they're known as Brachycia.
The Brachycia crew, I like it.
Yeah.
They're like the ultimate masters of disguise, at least in the chameleon world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Leafy camouflage, poof, they disappear. Speaking of disappearing, and I can't believe I'm about to ask you this,
Go on.
have you heard about their claim to fame? Or should we say, their claim to miniature fame? Brachycia nana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Brachycia nana. I think they made quite the splash. Remarkably large.
Right.
Yes. For their size, anyway.
But their size, exactly.
It is interesting, though. It makes you think about the evolutionary pressures these creatures must be under.
Okay, so tiny chameleon, massive evolutionary questions. What's going on there?
Well, when you think about it, miniaturization, it's actually a fascinating thing. Like in the animal kingdom, it often forces some really unique adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of B. nana, it seems like some of their anatomy just hasn't scaled down at the same rate as everything else.
So it's a case of more to it than meets the eye. Or should I say, more to it than meets the microscope.
That's a good one.
But, so back to Brachycia nophi,
Right.
this new one.
Yes.
What makes it so special is where they found it, right? This habitat.
The habitat is really important, yes. This is the first miniature chameleon that they found in a littoral forest.
Okay, so what is that? A littoral forest.
So picture this. You're on the coast,
Okay,
and there's this forest. It's where the land just meets the sea, you know?
got it.
Sand dunes, salty air, the works.
Oh.
Pretty harsh conditions, really, even for a chameleon that's used to blending in.
Yeah, no kidding. Talk about tough. So we've got this tiny, tough chameleon, perfectly camouflaged in this really specific habitat. It's pretty amazing to find a new species like that. Makes you wonder what else is out there.
Exactly. What haven't we discovered yet, you know? Especially in these places that haven't been fully explored.
Exactly. So we've got this tiny chameleon, right? Perfectly hidden, living in this very particular and kind of intense environment.
Yeah.
So what does that tell us? Like, is there something bigger here? I mean, besides, wow, cool new chameleon.
That's the best part. It's easy to get caught up in, ooh, new species, but Brachycia nophi's story, it's bigger than that. It shows us how much biodiversity is packed into these really specialized ecosystems, like these littoral forests, which actually, they're facing some real problems right now.
Oh, like what?
Well, they're disappearing fast, really. Yeah, deforestation's a big problem. Agriculture, logging, even making charcoal, it's all taking a toll.
Wow, that's rough.
It is. And then on top of that, you've got habitat fragmentation. So it's not just that the forests are shrinking, they're getting cut up into these little islands.
Making it even harder for something like bee no-fi to survive.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
The IFL Science article actually quotes one of the study authors, Miguel Vences, and he says, most of these species appear to be restricted to very tiny distribution ranges.
Wow.
So it's not just losing trees, it's losing this whole web of life that depends on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, it's wild that bee no-fi was discovered because of tourists. What a crazy coincidence. But it got me thinking, maybe ecotourism could be a part of the solution.
It's an interesting thought, and it's being talked about a lot in conservation. On the one hand, ecotourism could be a way to bring in money.
To support the conservation efforts.
Exactly. Especially in places like Madagascar.
And not just that, but it could raise awareness too.
Right?
I mean, a chameleon the size of your fingernail, come on. It's like something out of a storybook.
You're right. It's pretty amazing. But, and this is a big but, we've got to think about the downsides. If you get too much tourism, especially if it's not done well, it can actually hurt these fragile ecosystems.
Like these littoral forests we're talking about.
Exactly.
So it's walking a tightrope. You want people to see how amazing these places are, but you don't want to love them to death.
Right.
How do we find that balance? What does responsible ecotourism even look like?
Well, it has to start with education. Teaching tourists about the environment, the importance of staying on the trails, not making trash, and being respectful of the communities that live there.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it means working with those communities to come up with tourism that's sustainable, good for the environment and the people.
So it's not just hop on a plane, take a picture, bye.
Yeah.
It's about being aware, being respectful,
Yes.
understanding that we're visitors in these really special places.
Exactly. And realizing that even the smallest things we do can make a difference.
It's like you set one thing in motion, and it has this ripple effect. Like one person chooses to be a responsible tourist, and it can actually help protect these incredible places, protect those littoral forests and the creatures that live in them. And it makes you think about that Brachysia no-fi discovery again.
It really shows you the power of citizen science.
It's amazing. You don't need to be like a scientist in a lab coat to make a difference. You're saying anyone can be a scientist.
And pretty much.
Yeah.
All you need is curiosity and a willingness to just look around you, observe.
I love that.
Take pictures of cool insects, keep track of birds you see, even something like checking the water quality in a stream near you.
Right.
There's so many citizen science projects out there.
And with technology these days, sharing what you find is so easy.
Exactly.
Snap a picture, upload, maybe jot down a few notes on an app, and boom,
Yeah.
you're adding to this global database.
It really is remarkable.
Yeah.
And the best part, these observations from citizen scientists actually use that data.
Really? They do?
Yeah, they use it to track where species are, see how the environment's changing, even make decisions about conservation.
Wow, that's huge.
It is.
So, for everyone listening, what's the one thing you hope they take away from our deep dive here?
Into the world.
To the world of miniature chameleons and Brachysia no-fi.
I think the biggest thing is just remembering that the natural world is full of wonder. There's still so much out there that we don't know, so much left to find. And we might find it in the most unexpected ways.
Like from tourists on vacation.
Exactly. It shows that we all have a part to play in understanding and protecting this planet.
Absolutely. It really drives home the fact that we're all connected. What we do matters, even the small stuff.
That's it.
So, to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep being curious. You never know. You might be the one to make the next big discovery. And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of Brachysia no-fi. Until next time, stay curious.